Today we are heading back to Lagoon Amusement Park in Farmington, Utah. A place that has captured the curiosity of so many of you. I get asked constantly to revisit Lagoon, to uncover the stories behind the rides, the accidents, and the mysteries that most visitors never see. Tonight, we're going beyond the bright lights and laughter to explore the dark history that lingers beneath the surface. A side of the park that is as chilling as it is fascinating. Welcome back to Death Kiss Traveler. I'm Marissa, your morbidly curious host. And today's episode may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised. If you are enjoying this podcast, please hit that subscribe button, share this podcast with your friends, and leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening. It helps my podcast grow, and more than anything, I appreciate the support. Beneath the laughter and the screams of joy and the flashing lights of Utah's most beloved and only amusement park lies a dark story. One of tragedy, mystery, and accidents that have left their mark on the park's history. From rides that went horribly wrong, to tales that haunt the memories of those who were there. Lagoon's past is far more sinister than the smiles on its carousel. Tonight, we're peeling back the cheerful facade to uncover the dark history of Lagoon, a side of the park most visitors never get to see. My very first episode was the early history of Lagoon, and my second was of the wooden roller coaster at Lagoon. Both carry a haunting history, but is there more? Lagoon first opened its gates in the late 1800s. Originally, it was located along the shores of the Great Salt Lake. At the time, it was a popular resort destination, drawing visitors with its cool waters, dance pavilions, and early amusement rides. But the location proved to be a challenge. Flooding, shifting shorelines, and harsh environmental factors made it difficult to sustain. By the early 1900s, Lagoon was relocated inland to Farmington, Utah, where it found a more permanent home. Since then, Lagoon has grown and transformed into one of the most iconic amusement parks in the western United States. Today, the park features 11 roller coasters, a wide variety of family attractions, and a small water park. Beyond the rides, Lagoon carries with it a deep and fascinating history woven into its attractions. Its Pioneer Village collection, and even the stories of triumphs and tragedies that have taken place there. I'm going to tell you stories you probably have never heard of at Lagoon, and clear up some urban legends. Our first story takes us to Soldier's Day at Lagoon in 1917. Families had flocked to the park, eager to enjoy the music, the rides, and the patriotic celebration honoring those serving in World War I. The sun sparkled off the wooden roller coaster, the carousel spun with laughter, and the smell of popcorn and candy filled the air. Among the crowds was a man known to many as the park's dancing master, a polite, unassuming figure who taught children and couples the latest steps of the foxtrot, or the two-step. He seemed ordinary, charming even, but beneath the practiced bow and a crisp suit, a dangerous secret lurked. According to the Davis County Clipper, this dancing master was not who he appeared to be. He was, in fact, a German spy sent to the United States during a time where fear on foreign sabotage ran high. His mission: to plant a bomb in Lagoon's pavilion during the crowded Soldier Days festivities. The explosion, had it gone off, could have killed or injured dozens of unsuspecting families. But fate or fortune intervened. The bomb failed to detonate. It's not clear who found the bomb, and different websites claim different stories, but it is confirmed that in the chaos, the spy vanished. He vanished into the crowd, leaving behind only whispers of terror. Authorities begin a manhunt, tracing his steps throughout the park, the city, and eventually to Fort Douglas, where he was captured and imprisoned. Rumors swirled that he had been convicted or even executed, but the truth remains murky. Lagoon, usually a place of joy and laughter, had narrowly escaped catastrophe that day. Beneath the carousel music and the cheers of children, history had almost turned tragic. And for those who knew the story, the dancing master's bow would forever be tinged with suspicion and danger. Okay, now picture this. It's the early hours of June 5th, 1950. Lagoon is closed and is cloaked in the stillness of the night. The park, a beacon of joy and laughter by day, now stands silent under the moonlit sky. Inside the office, the night watchman, perhaps weary from his rounds, is about to become an unwitting participant in a daring heist. At approximately 4 a.m., two masked men, experienced criminals with a taste for high-stakes robberies, infiltrated the park's office. They overpowered the unsuspecting guard, binding and gagging him with swift precision. Their objective is clear: the cash reserves of Lagoon. The robbers, undeterred by the late hour or the potential risks, methodically ransacked the office. They seized every coin in sight: pennies, nickels, dimes, and dollars, leaving no stone unturned. The haul? An estimated $5,000, equivalent to over $50,000 today. But here's a twist. Despite the audacity of the crime, the culprits vanished without a trace. The night watchman, once freed, alerted authorities, but the robbers are never apprehended. Their identities remain a mystery, their motives unclear. Why target Lagoon? Was it the allure of cash, the challenge of the heist, or perhaps something more personal? And how did they manage to execute such a flawless crime without leaving a single clue behind? This unsolved robbery adds a layer of intrigue to Lagoon's storied history. The tale of the masked bandits and their daring heist continues to captivate the imagination, leaving us to wonder, who were they and what became of them? I had never heard of either of these stories before, and this is exactly why I love history, especially the fascinating history of amusement parks. Every park has its own hidden world of stories, from daring accidents and unsolved mysteries to strange happenings and long-forgotten events. These tales remind us that amusement parks aren't just about rides and games. They are living archives of human experience, full of surprises, secrets, and moments that might never make it into the history books. Each park is unique, holding stories that are thrilling, eerie, and sometimes downright unbelievable, just waiting to be delivered. In the summer of 1989, Lagoon was faced with the tragedy of two dead children on two different rides. Puff the Magic Dragon is located in Kittyland at the center of Lagoon. It opened in 1985, and the tiny coaster of 198 feet is an oval with small hills. Guests are in a single dragon-shaped coaster car. 6 cars held 2 passengers and reached the top speeds of 16.2 miles per hour. On April 30th, 1989, a seemingly innocent ride, Puff the Magic Dragon, turned into a nightmare for a young boy and his family. 6-year-old Ryan Beckstead from Bountiful, Utah, was enjoying the gentle Puff the Magic Dragon with his family. As the ride slowed near the station, many of the children believed the fun was over. Accounts later suggested that the operator, some thought young and possibly inexperienced, called to the riders, asking if they want to go one more time. This was a common practice at the time, allowing the train to make several more circuits before ending the ride. But for Ryan, seated at the rear of the train, the words may have caused confusion. Thinking the ride had ended, he began to wiggle free of his restraints. Somehow, despite 2 locked safety devices, he managed to loosen himself. The train had not fully stopped when he rose from his seat and attempted to climb out. As the train started rolling, Ryan slipped and tumbled into the narrow space between the track. The operator didn't see him fall out. Ryan's father was screaming, "Stop the ride!" But the ride operator did not hear him. And before anyone could reach him, the train began its next circuit. The chattering cars moved forward, tipping and climbing again. And then tragedy. The train struck Ryan as he was climbing up through the track to get onto the loading station. It was a gruesome scene. The car had crushed Ryan as he was trying to climb through the track. Witnesses described the screams, the sudden stopping of the ride, and the desperate rush of attendants and bystanders alike trying to help. But it was already too late. What had begun as an innocent ride on a dragon-themed coaster ended in a devastating accident that haunted the park for years to come. Ryan's mother screaming, "You killed my little boy," and the ride operator dropping to her knees, "I killed a little boy." In the aftermath, investigators sought to understand how a child could have exited a ride designed for safety. Questioning whether staff, training, or equipment played a role, Ryan's parents later filed a wrongful death lawsuit alleging Lagoon had failed to adequately protect their son. But I could not find the outcome of that case. In response, the park implemented significant upgrades to Puff the Little Fire Dragon, modifying restraint systems and tightening operational procedures to prevent another tragedy. Lagoon even became one of the first, perhaps the only parks to requested added safety features for this specific ride model. Yet despite the improvements, the accidents left a permanent mark on Lagoon's history, a somber reminder of the fragile line between joy and disaster. And it was only a few months after the tragic accident on Puff the Little Fire Dragon that Lagoon was rocked by yet another nightmare. This time, it wasn't a children's ride. It was the park's pride and joy. It was the classic wooden roller coaster, a ride that had thrilled guests since 1921. On July 9th of 1989, 13-year-old Kylie King from Bountiful, Utah, climbed into the front car of the coaster with her friend. It was the beginning of summer. The park was alive with energy, and to Kylie, the ride must have felt like the ultimate adventure. The train chattered up the lift hill, chains rattling, wood groaning, and then plunging into its first dip. Everything seemed normal, but as the coaster crested the second hill and began its next descent, something went terribly wrong. Witnesses would later say that Kylie rose up from her seat. Somehow she managed to slip beneath the locked lap bar, possibly because of her small frame, possibly from leaning too far forward. She lifted her arms in the air in excitement, maybe thinking she was invincible, maybe trying to match the carefree thrill of the moment. But physics has no mercy. And as the car lunged forward and the track fell away beneath her, Kylie lost her balance. In an instant, she was airborne. She was hurled from the car, tumbling 35 feet to the ground below. Kylie was pronounced dead at the scene. The investigation that followed was thorough. Police, the county attorney, and the state medical examiner combed through every detail. They found that the lap bar had been locked, the ride had been operating as designed, and there was no sign of mechanical failure. The official ruling was an accidental death. Detectives called it a freak combination of circumstances. Her build, her movements, and the time of the drop all working against her in a split second of tragedy. But for her family, those explanations weren't enough. Kylie's mother filed a lawsuit arguing that Lagoon's safety design and restraints were inadequate. But unfortunately, Lagoon was not found at fault. The coaster eventually reopened, with adjustments, like shifting the seats forward to try and prevent another catastrophe. Still, the shadow of that day lingers. 2 accidents just months apart, both young lives lost. For many Utah families, Lagoon would never quite feel the same again. According to the History of Utah Mystery, as of September of 2025, Lagoon Amusement Park in Farmington, Utah, has been associated with at least 27 reported fatalities since its opening in 1886. These incidents encompass both ride-related accidents and other fatal events linked to the park. Notably, many of these tragedies resulted from rider behavior, such as attempting to exit moving rides or ignoring safety restraints, other than mechanical failures, or drowning in the old lagoon pool before lifeguards were mandatory. The wooden roller coaster is responsible for 4 tragic deaths, and for more information on the wooden roller coaster, listen to episode number 2. Of course, not every story at Lagoon ends in tragedy you can see in the headlines. Some of the park's most unsettling tales aren't about accidents at all, but are the things that you can't explain. Because while rides can malfunction and safety rules fail, there's another side to Lagoon's history that's harder to pin down. Whispers of shadows, footsteps in an empty room, and strange happenings after dark. These are the ghost stories of Lagoon. They're every bit as chilling as the accidents that made the news. Pioneer Village isn't just a collection of props. It is a living museum full of authentic 19th century buildings and artifacts that were brought to Lagoon from all across Utah. When you walk through it, you're not just seeing recreations, you're literally stepping into history. There are cabins and buildings. Many of the log cabins once belonged to early Utah settlers, some dating back to the early 1800s. Families actually lived, cooked, and raised children inside these structures. There's an old blacksmith shop, complete with the original tools. People have reported unexplained clanging of metal in here after hours. There's an old schoolhouse, and it's one of the most famous buildings. Inside the rows of antique wooden desks and chalkboards are period books. Guests have claimed to hear the faint sound of chalk, scratching, or desks moving on their own. There's a general store and a post office, and it stands as a reminder of how communities once traded and communicated, stocked with real antique goods. There's also some barns and stables and frontier-style homes, each carefully restored and filled with artifacts that once saw daily use. The village is actually filled with authentic pioneer furniture, including rocking chairs, hand-carved tables, and iron bedsteads. Kitchen items like butter churns, cast iron stove, lanterns, and hand tools line the shelves. Many were donated by families whose ancestors were among Utah's first settlers. One of the most eerie collections is in the Pioneer Medical Display, which includes 19th century surgical instruments, old medicines, and even a dentist chair that make many visitors uneasy. Scattered throughout are photographs, clothing, and toys that once belonged to real people, now long gone. Some visitors say these items carry an energy, as though their owners never truly left. By day, it's a charming window into the past, full of history lessons and quiet corners to explore. But after dark, the village takes on a very different personality. Visitors and employees alike have reported eerie experiences that can't be explained. Some speak of shadowy figures flirting between the cabins, glimpsed from the corner of an eye. Others have described cold spots, pockets of icy air that appear suddenly, even on warm summer nights. One story tells of the blacksmith's cabin where the lights flicker on and off. Even though the electrical systems are long disconnected, staff cleaning the village have felt the weight of an invisible presence, heard the clatter of tools, or sensed that someone is standing just behind them, only to turn and to find the space empty. Some speculate that the ghosts are the spirits of pioneers themselves, people who lived, worked, and even died in these buildings. Others say it's the restless energy of the past, refusing to fade as time marches on. Whatever the truth is, one thing is certain: Pioneer Village at night is a place where history comes alive in ways that are sometimes beautiful, sometimes unsettling, but always unforgettable. All right, so Lagoon's history is a tapestry of thrills, tragedies, mysteries, and ghosts. A reminder that amusement parks are far more than rides and cotton candy. I have been going to Lagoon since I was a kid, and I've always felt that the history there had a darker story. I could feel it. Lagoon holds stories of mystery, loss, and the unexplained. But now it's time to clear up some urban legends. Nobody died on the Wild Mouse or any other tight-twisting roller coaster. This is the number one urban legend that I hear. Lagoon has had 3 different Wild Mouse roller coasters, and although there was a mechanical error in the mid-1960s and one Wild Mouse car stalled and another car rammed it from behind, some kids were reportedly injured, but it's reported that no one was seriously injured. Some say that a ride car tipped on its side during a sharp turn on the older Wild Mouse, scaring riders. No credible source confirmed serious or fatal injury. For years, even my mom told me this one, that a car fell off the tracks and people died. But this urban legend can be debunked. When Lagoon was expanding in the early days, the land they chose wasn't just another patch of Utah soil. Some visitors whisper that it was once a pioneer burial ground. The story goes that when the park grew, not every grave was properly moved. Some were left behind, hidden beneath the soil, the markers long forgotten. That's why, according to legend, Pioneer Village has always felt different. Some say they've seen shadows, figures dressed in pioneer clothing, watching silently before vanishing into thin air. Others swear they've heard whispers and muffled voices carried on in the wind, though no one was around. There's no official proof that Lagoon sits on top of a cemetery. No record of unmarked graves beneath the ride, but the area surrounding Farmington and Centerville is dotted with pioneer resting places, many small and forgotten with time. And that perhaps is what gives this legend its power. And so, I can't completely debunk this claim. Lagoon may be over the top of some pioneer graves. The Ferris wheel has always been one of Lagoon's most recognizable rides. Its bright lights glowing against the Utah night sky, but behind its cheerful music and sweeping views, there's a story that many locals still whisper. A story about the woman that never came back down. According to legend, sometime in the 1930s, a young woman climbed aboard the Ferris wheel. No one remembers her name or why she was there that night. Some say she was with a date who abandoned her. Others claim she'd been grieving a terrible loss. But when the wheel rose high into the air, she jumped or fell. The details have been blurred with time, and no one can quite agree on what happened. But ever since, riders have claimed to see her again. Late at night, when the Ferris wheel creaks and groans in the dark, some say a lone figure can be seen sitting in one of the gondolas. A woman in old-fashioned dresses, staring out into nothing. But when the ride comes back around, the seat's empty. No official records mention a death on the Ferris wheel in the 1930s. or ever. Lagoon's archives are silent on the matter, and historians say the story doesn't line up with any documented accident. But that doesn't stop the stories. Maybe it's just the imagination playing tricks on the shadows. Or maybe that woman is still riding, trapped forever on the Ferris wheel, waiting for the night it finally lets her off. I can't debunk the ghost sightings, but I can tell you that there is no proof of anyone falling from the Ferris wheel. This one is debunked. I have been going to Lagoon since I was a kid, and it's a great amusement park. It has nostalgia and charm, but also new rides that are one of a kind. I have always heard these stories of people dying at Lagoon, which maybe is what piqued my curiosity. 27 people have died at Lagoon, most of them accidents that were beyond the park's control. But there are a handful of accounts that Lagoon was at fault. And I also had to put these urban legends to rest and give you the real stories of Lagoon, because the real stories are just as wild. So the next time you walk through Lagoon, ride the roller coaster, stroll through Pioneer Village, or just hear the distant laughter or echo across the park, remember this: beneath the joy, the thrill, and the music, there are stories of danger, mystery, and the unexplained. The past is truly never gone, and at Lagoon, it never sleeps. Some stories end, some are never solved, and some, like the whispers of Pioneer Village, linger long into the night. Thank you for listening to Death-Kissed Traveler. This podcast is produced by Sun-Kissed Traveler. Are you thinking of a vacation? Sun-Kissed Traveler can help you plan your family vacation to Disney, a couple's vacation to Mexico, or a cruise to a tropical island. Wherever you are traveling, Sun-Kissed Traveler can help you book an amazing vacation. Check show notes for a website or visit sun-kissedtraveler.com. That's sun-kissed traveler.com. I'll see you next week.